Welcome to Gurukul Lectures. In the ongoing series of leadership and team development, we will be talking on the various group processes. As we have already discussed, that group processes are the communication patterns used by the members for the information exchanges, for decision making, for group dynamics, for power dynamics, for conflict interactions. So these are very important to understand because we have to strategize as far as the working and the functioning of the groups are concerned. So these processes are very significant as they can create the output which is definitely greater than some of their inputs. And they are very much important to understand the group behavior. So by understanding of the group behavior can be controlled with the help of desired behavior and the work can be accomplished. So we have to understand what the negative synergy is all about as far as the group process is concerned, because people have this kind of a feeling that in a group they tend to show less performance because overall we see the group performance, not the individual performance. So this group facilitation effect, the tendency for performing to improve or decline in response to the presence of others. While this effect is not entirely a group phenomena, the people can work in the presence of the group as well as without being a part of the group. So the group situation is more likely to improve and the condition for the social facilitation to occur. So to understand the group processes, we have talked about in the previous lectures about what the group task is all about, what is a simple task, complex task, and about the group structure, that is, it is a combination of the group roles, norms, conformity, workplace behavior, status, reference group, and the social loafing cohorts, social demography and cohesiveness. So moving in the same direction, we have talked about the various types of the group role in the previous lecture. Like for example, we have talked about the structural variables which affect like formal leadership, roles, norms, status, group size, etc. So the roles are very important because we have to understand the task roles, the coordinator role, who's an energizer, elaborator, evaluator, critique, information giver, information seeker, recorder, procedural technician, etc. We have also seen about the group building and the maintenance behavior. That is, they try and maintain the culture of the group by encouraging the people, by having a compromiser in the group. There are different roles assigned for the maintenance roles like a harmonizer, observer, self-centered role, etc. So after having a deep discussion about the role expectations, the role conflicts, next important item which we have discussed is about the group norms, that is the guidelines which reflect the expectations of how the group members should act and interact. We have also discussed that they are a kind of ought to and what ought not to be under circumstances, that is the bylaws, the guidelines, how the people have behaved or they should behave. So when agreed to and accepted by the group, the norms act as a means of influencing the behavior of a group member within a minimum of external controls. So the norms differ from the group, communities and societies, but they all have them. And about the common clauses of the norms, about the performance norms, appearance norms, social arrangement norms, resource allocation norms. The next important group process is all about conformity. Now, as a member of a group, you desire the acceptance by the group, and because of your desire for the acceptance, you are susceptible to the conforming to the group norms. So there is a considerable evidence that the groups can place a strong pressure on the individual members to change their attitude, behavior, and to conform to the group standards. Do individuals conform to the pressures of all the groups to which they belong? Obviously, no. People belong to many groups and their norms vary, and in some cases they even have a contradictory norms. Now what is conformity? So what do people do? They conform to the important groups to which they belong or hope to belong. The important groups have been referred to as a reference group and are characterized as one in which the person is aware of the other. The person defines himself or herself as a member and would like to be a member, and the person feels that the group members are significant to him or her. The implication then is that all the groups do not impose the equal conformity pressures on their members. Now we will be talking about the deviant workplace behavior. Mr. X is frustrated by a co-worker who constantly spreads malicious and unsubstantiated rumors about him. Mr. Yasmin is tired of a member of her group team who, then confronted with a problem, taken out his frustration by yelling and screaming at her and the other group members. And this Miss Zaika recently quit her job as a dental hygienist after being constantly sexually harassed by her employer. What do these three episodes have in common? They represent employee being exposed to acts of a deviant workplace behavior. Definitely yelling, screaming and doing anything which is not required and uncalled for is called as a deviant workplace behavior and should be avoided to the best possible extent. The deviant workplace behavior, this term covers a full range of antisocial actions by the organizational members that intentionally violate established norms that result in negative consequences for the organization and of course its members or for both. So, we will be talking about the typology of a deviant workplace behavior with the typology as well as the kind of examples and the categories which is clearly showing the workplace deviant behavior. The first category which we are talking today is about the production. We will be talking about the deviant workplace behavior in the first category, that is production. The examples are leaving early from your job, intentionally working slow. These two are the fine examples of a deviant workplace behavior as far as the first category, that is production, is concerned. Let us now talk about the second category, that is properly. So, the fine examples of deviant workplace behavior as far as the second category of properly are lying about the hours which you have worked in the organization. The second is your stealing from the organization. So, these two examples very clearly exhibit the deviant workplace behavior. The third is your political, showing favoritism, gossiping and spreading rumors, blaming your co-workers. These three examples are definitely the examples of deviant workplace behavior as far as the political category is concerned. Next category which we are talking about is your personal aggression. The fine examples are sexual harassment, verbal abuse, stealing from co-workers. So, this deviant workplace behavior is very clearly explained with the help of various examples under the various categories. Few organizations will admit to creating or condoning the conditions that encourage and maintain the deviant norms. Yet, they exist, and as with the norms in the general, individual employees, antisocial actions are shaped by the group context within which they work. Evidence demonstrate that antisocial behavior exhibited by a work group is a significant predictor of an individual's antisocial behavior at work. Next important part as well as the social process is concerned is a status. While teaching a college course on adolescence, the instructor asked the class to list out the things that contributed to the status when they were in high school. The list was long and included being an athlete or a cheerleader and being able to cut class without getting caught. So then the instructor asked the students to list the things that did not contribute to the status. Again, it was very easy for the students to create a long list. Getting straight, A, having your mother drive you to school, and so on and so forth. So finally, the students were asked to develop a third list, those things that did not matter one way or the other. So there was a long silence. At last, one student in the back row volunteered. In the high school, nothing did not matter. So the status, that is a socially defined position or the rank given to a group or a group member by the others, it permeates the society far beyond the walls of a high school. And it would not be an extravagant to rephrase the preceding quotation to read, in the status hierarchy of life, nothing does not matter. Despite all attempts to make it more egalitarian, we have made a little progress towards a classless society. Even the smallest group will develop the roles, rights, and the rituals to differentiate its members. So the status is an important factor in understanding the human behavior because it is a significant motivator and has a major behavioral consequences when individuals perceive a disparity between what they believe their status to be and what others perceive it to be. Now let us have an important discussion on the status as well as the norms. Status has been shown to have some interesting effects on the power of norms and the pressures to conform. For instance, high status members of the group often are given more freedom to deviate from the norms than are other group members. So the high status people also are better able to resist conformity pressures than lower the status peers. An individual who is highly valued by a group but who does not need or care about the social rewards the group provides is particularly able to pay a minimal attention to conformity of the norms. Now let us talk about a status equity. It is very important for a group member to believe that the status hierarchy is equitable, and when the inequity is perceived, it creates a huge disequilibrium, which results in various types of corrective behavior. The trapping that go on with the formal positions are also important elements in maintaining the equity. And when we believe that there is an inequity between the perceived ranking of an individual, the status accoutrements that person is given by the organizations, and we are experiencing a status incongruence. An example of this kind of an incongruence is more desirable office location being held by a lower ranking individual. Pay incongruence has also been a problem in the insurance industry, where the top sales agents often earn 2 to 5 times more than their senior corporate executives. The result is that it is very hard for the insurance companies to entice the successful agents into the management positions. Our point is that employees expect the things an individual has and receives to be congruent with his or her status. So before we leave the topic of the status, we should briefly discuss the issue of cross-cultural transferability. Do the culture differences affect the status? The answer is resounding yes. The importance of status does not vary with the cultures. The French, for example, are highly status conscious. And of course, if we talk about the group size, does the size of a group affect the group overall behavior? The answer to this question is a definite yes, but the effect depends upon what dependent variables you look at. The evidence indicates, for example, the smaller groups are faster at completing the task that are the larger ones. However, if the group is engaged in a problem solving, large group consistently get better marks than their smaller counterparts. So translating these results into a specific number is a bit more hazardous, but we can offer some kind of parameters, like for example the large groups with a dozen or more members are good for gaining the diverse inputs. So if the goal of the group is fact finding, the larger groups should be more effective. On the other hand, the smaller groups are being better at doing something productive with the inputs, and the group of approximately the 7 members therefore tend to be more effective for taking some kind of important actions. One of the most important finding related to the size of the group has been labeled as social loafing. Social loafing refers to the concept that people are prone to exert less effort on a task if they are in a group versus when they work alone. Social loafing is a tendency for the individuals to expend less effort when working collectively when working individually. The idea of working in a group is typically seen as a way to improve the accomplishment of a task by pooling the skills and the talents of the individuals in that group. But in some groups, there is a tendency on the part of the participants to contribute less to the group goals than if they are doing the same task individually. And in the social psychology, social loafing is a phenomena of the people exerting less effort to achieve a particular goal when they work in a group than when they work alone. This is seen as one of the main reasons the groups are sometimes less productive than the combined performance of their members working as individuals, but should be distinguished from the accidental coordination problems that the group sometimes experience. Social loafing frequently occurs because certain individuals expend less effort than the others, and this can create an unhelpful group dynamics and individual response. So we have to learn about how the social loafing occurs and what can be done to prevent it. There are some causes of the social loafing, and it includes a perception of unfair division of labor, a belief that the co-workers are lazy, or a feeling of being able to hide in a crowd and therefore not to be able to be singled out for the blame. We have a group size. Like social loafing may also arise if a member believes that others intend to withhold their efforts, and thus he or she would be foolish not to do the same, the sucker effect. So the social loafing has a negative consequences for both the group as well as the individuals in the group. So the group dynamic is affected when certain individuals are seen as weak contributors to the group purpose, and it tends to split the group and fosters a lack of cohesion. For example, if only 5 to 8 members of a team are doing most of the work, it will often create as in-group, that is those members that are working hard, and out-group those members that are not contributing as such. So the individuals in the group can also be affected by the social loafing. While there is a disparity of the efforts between the members of a group, individuals start to gauge their own effort based on what others are doing instead of maintaining a standard of excellence towards achieving the goal. So this lowers the level of satisfaction for the task in and all the members of the group. For example, if a motivated team member repeatedly feels others are relying on them to do the work, they might deliberately reduce their workload or even stop collaborating with the group members because they are no longer wanting to feel exploited by less productive members. Then let us have a look on the group composition as another important group process. Most group activities require a variety of skills and the knowledge. Given this requirement, it would be reasonable to conclude that the heterogeneous groups, those composed of dissimilar individuals, would be more likely to have diverse abilities and the information and should be more effective. There are some research studies generally substantiate this conclusion, especially on cognitive, creativity demanding tasks. When a group is diverse in terms of personality, gender, age, education, functional specialization and the experience, so there is an increased probability that the group will possess the need characteristics to complete its task effectively. Next important part is your group composition. The group may be more conflict-laden and less expedient as varied positions are introduced and assimilated. But the evidence generally supports the conclusion that the heterogeneous group perform more effectively than do those that are homogeneous. Essentially, diversity promotes the conflict, which stimulates the creativity, which leads to improve the decision making. An offshoot of the composition issue has recently received a great deal of attention by the group researchers. There is a degree to which the members of a group share a common demographic attributes like age, gender, race, education level, length of the service in the organization, and the impact of this attribute on the turnover. So, we call this variable a group demography. The group and organizations are composed of cohorts, which we define as individuals who hold a common attribute. For example, everyone born in 1960 is of the same age. This means they also have a shared common experiences. The people born in 1970 have experienced the information revolution, but the Korean conflict, not the Korean conflict. So, people who are born in 1945 shared the liberation war of Bangladesh, but not the Great Depression. Women in Bangladesh organizations today are born before 1971, matured prior to the women's movement, and have had substantially different experiences from the women born after 1990. So, these are the generation cohorts, that is the experiences in which year they were born, they experiences the same kind of positions and the dynamics. The group demography therefore suggests that the attributes such as the age or the date that someone joins a specific workforce, an organization should help us to predict the turnover. Essentially, the logic gives and goes like this: the turnover will be greater among those who dissimilar experiences because the communication is more difficult. The conflict and the power struggles are more likely and more severe when they occur. The increased conflict makes the group memberships less attractive, so the employees are more likely to quit. Similarly, the losers in a group struggle and the power struggle are more apt to leave the voluntarily or to be forced out. So, next very important aspect we are going to discuss is the cohesiveness. The extent to which the group members are attracted towards each other and are encouraged to stay in the group. The group cohesion is the aggregate of all the factors causing the members of a group to stay in the group or to be attracted to the group. Group cohesion acts as a social glue that binds a group together. Some people think that the work team illustrating the strong group cohesion will function and perform better in achieving the group goals. So, the group cohesion is not attributed to one single factor, but it is the interaction of more than one factor, while the group cohesion may have an impact on the group performance also. The group performance, and it also creates increase or decrease as far as the group cohesion is concerned. Group cohesion can actually have a negative impact on the group task performance also. The most influential factor that creates a very important positive relationship between the group cohesion and the group performance is the group members' commitment towards the organization performance goals as well as the norms. Group differ in their cohesiveness, that is, the degree to which the members are attracted to each other and are motivated to stay in that particular group. For example, some work groups are cohesive because the members have spent a great deal of time together, or the group's small size facilitates the high interaction, or the group has experienced the external threats that have brought the members too close together. Cohesiveness is important because it has been found to be related to the particular group activities. So, it is defined as the degree to which the members are attracted to one another and share the group goal. That is, more the members are attracted to each other and more the group members' goals align with their individual goals, the greater is the group cohesiveness.